Is that it? Okay. Okay, everybody. Carter committee meeting as of October the 29th. I want to thank everybody on the call today. It's been a long time since we have talked, and so I know a lot of things are still going on, and there are some new things that we probably need to prepare for. We do have a quorum, commissioners on the call. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda that was sent out by Josh Edwards?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? See, Josh, I told you nobody was going to oppose your agenda. We haven't met in a while, and I'm be honest with you, I am a little bit hazy. I talked to Josh earlier today, so I'm going to turn over this part of the meeting to Josh, unless there's anything that anybody else wants to bring up before Josh guide us or facilitate us through the meeting. Okay, well, we're good. Josh, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton, and great to be here with everybody. Glad to get the committee back together. It definitely seems a little more normal, and so we appreciate your willingness to join us today, and we appreciate y'all being the ones that really have asked us to get this back on the table. We last met in February, in the middle of February, as a corridor policy committee, and at that meeting, y'all prioritized these top three initiatives here. And it was there also that you had asked us to move forward with the master plan of plantings. And so from that meeting came the agenda item that the full mayor and commission approved, and that master plan of plantings moved forward. And we'll speak a little bit about that as we go today. The summary is, in y'all's FY21 budget, you approved $75,000 being designated for that. But as things have gone this year, and as we have had to focus on COVID-19 and other things, we do need to kind of talk to what's the latest on that, and we'll do that later as part of the agenda item B here, because some of those medians are in the Atlanta Highway Corridor and might be something that are kind of piggybacked along with the user group. But we can give you an update then. So there were three. The master plan of plantings is complete. It's just a matter of funding that now, and that might be something that comes up again during this budget process. The next two, in the February meeting, you had asked us as staff to look at those and bring back ideas. So as we went into March, and we had our March meeting scheduled, we ended up canceling it. And from there, we decided to put this meeting on hold because everybody was really busy and had other commitments that we were trying to address related to COVID. So all that to say, as staff, we have been trying to find solutions and bring back ideas for you for this meeting. And so we do have opportunities and things that we want to run by you today. So related to the speed management policy program, item C on the agenda is an idea that our Transportation and Public Works Department has to address that and allow us to test things to try to build a policy around speed management. So we're excited about that idea. Steve was not our TPW director when we last met, so that's just an example of how much has changed. He's brought new ideas, and he's tried things in other places that he's worked, and I think he has a really good idea that he's going to present today. In terms of lane narrowing, that is another thing that y'all have prioritized that you want to discuss, and we can speak to that in this meeting, but also in future meetings as well. I do want to apologize. In the midst of everything that happened in March, I lost track of my notes, and I don't have minutes for this meeting, so that's on me, and I apologize. And thanks to our virtual meeting, I have all the ability to watch the meeting again, and type out my notes this time. So I will have the minutes for next time, so I apologize for that. So with that, are there any questions on item A before we move forward?
I have a question, Obita.
Go for it.
So the lane narrowing, are we going to discuss the items or not? Are you still working on the lane narrowing, or is that going to come up under C or something like that?
Right. So Commissioner Hamby, that's an item that Steve has in his presentation. I think Steve could speak to it now if he wants, or, speak to it as part of his presentation.
I can wait till his presentation. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So
If there are no more questions, we will follow.
okay, great. And so as we worked on scheduling this meeting, thanks Commissioner Thornton for finding time for this meeting as we kind of ran into some scheduling challenges. One of the things that we heard from our committee was that you're interested in being updated at every meeting related to our corridor user groups. So both Keith and Derek are here to give you an update on the 3 user groups, and they've got a really short, I think it's 3-slide presentation just to walk us through it. So at this point, I'll hand it off to them.
Thank you, everybody, and appreciate the invite and the chance to share the update. I'll put the slide up here real quick. So we have got the 3 corridor groups that are listed up here that are going right now. I don't know if everybody was aware of the appointees on them, but these were appointed by the mayor a couple of months ago, several months back. Lexington and Atlanta Highway had already started at the time that the mayor made the appointments, and so we added a couple of members. And I think you recall you've already looked at the first round of potential projects from those 2 projects, and those have gone to public comment, and then we're coming back to you in a work session in November to present some more detailed information on those 2. The Prince Avenue group is getting kicked off a week after next, November the 9th. We have a pretty large group there. Trying to get them scheduled has been a bit of a challenge, but we do have that first kickoff meeting scheduled with them. And I put down here at the bottom, the Lexington and Atlanta group have monthly meetings scheduled, and so Lexington meets the second Thursday of the month, and Atlanta meets the third Wednesday of every month.
When was Lexington again?
The Lexington meets usually the second Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Are still doing those as WebEx meetings.
May we get a follow-up with this slide presentation or today's presented stuff? Can we get that as a follow-up? Thanks.
Sure. So I think you have seen this in a previous email, maybe a while back, but we have schedules that we're working forward on Lexington and Atlanta. I have a slide for both, but they very much parallel each other, which is just showing that we do have the work session coming up November 10th, and we're going to follow that with the public input on the second round. And the second round of public input, we will have individual project sheets with information and pros and cons, potential cost that we'll be presenting to you in November. And also that's what we'll put out for public input. And then we hopefully from that, the user group can bring back to you a recommended priority list or the original list, but in priority order, and bring that to you for a vote January 5th. And from that, then we can move into preliminary design and carry out the design and on to construction. So I've got a schedule on here that we'll send out as follow-up for both, but Atlanta and Lexington follow the same schedule. We'll develop one similar to this for Prince after we meet with the user group the first time and kind of line out where we think we want to go, but I foresee it following a very similar schedule to this one. Prince is a little bit ahead of the other 2, and in one regard we haven't met, but there is a lot more backup data, a lot more studies that have been done over history, over time for that corridor than these 2 had. So with that, Derek is here. He's doing the project management on Lexington, Atlanta, and can answer any questions or if you have any. Then
I have a question, Avita. So,
Go.
In looking at the calendar here, we're having a work session on the 10th. And I'm specifically talking about Atlanta Highway because I'm keeping up with that one. So, has the user group weighed in on the projects? Have the I know staff has weighed in. Have the citizens weighed in on the projects that are there? And has any of those been discussed?
yes, they've been discussed at all of the meetings. It's the list that Mayor and Commission approved, and we've got more data that has been fleshed out on that. He's also, I think Derek is scheduling some additional follow-up meetings, particularly with the user group members that got added to the group. But then it's going out for public input after the work session. We haven't taken it out for public comment yet. We'll show that to Mayor and Commission first on the 10th, and then take about 3 weeks of public comment.
Yeah. Keith, I'll say this. I've of course talked to members of the user group. I don't know that are you sure they felt like there's been a good discussion about the projects? I mean, before it comes to us, what's the point of the user? I'm having trouble reconciling why it's come to us before the user group weighs in on what it is they'd like for us to prioritize, so that the
user. Let me try to say it a different. The user group I will say with the Atlanta Highway, there's at least one user group member that wants more discussion, and that we're working to get him some more information to help him feel comfortable with where the projects are. He is one of the ones that was added to the group later, but the group has seen the list. They have seen the projects and they've seen the information.
Well, I'm not talking about seeing. I know they've seen the list. I'm not disputing whether or not they've seen the list. What I'm disputing is if we ask citizens to be on a user group that's actually formed by the manager and is very staff heavy. If we're asking citizens to be on there, then if they, I just feel like they need to have the discussion about the projects. I mean, it's easy enough for staff to get on there and present stuff, but I don't know. It just seems stacked with staff priorities more than citizen priorities. I'm going to put it that way.
Okay. We do have several more user groups. What we're bringing to you is the information that's going out for the public before it comes back to you for a vote. The user group will have gone through it probably one or two more times at least, along with the public input, and then the user group, including the citizens, will be the one making the recommendation for the priorities. But that will come before not until January vote. We're just trying to get the information to you as well in the work session. I don't know. Maybe that's.
I guess I'm not. I don't understand.
Mike, are you saying that you were anticipating that the user group would have had some suggestions that would have been commingled into the staff's suggestions?
I guess that's what I'm suggesting, that they could have looked at it a little bit more, because what we're going to see is basically what we saw last time a couple of months ago, is the way I see it, but maybe I'm wrong.
So, and I'm trying to, I kind of get what Commissioner Hamby is saying. What we want is our user groups, the people in the public that we selected, to have a greater input on what is being proposed instead of staff. Is that what you're saying, Commissioner Hamby?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I agree.
But this is Commissioner Wright. I wanted to note something that might help with more time with the user groups. It's my impression, first of all, our voting meeting in January is January 5th. And typically, when we are adding new commissioners, of which we will be adding 2 new ones, we do not vote on anything that has a substantial back learning part to it. So it might be that we need to move it to February because we typically on swearing in night don't have a heavy voting agenda due to the newness.
I agree with that, Allison. I mean, and especially if we're asking for citizen input, if it's going out to the public for citizen input right in the middle of the holidays and right in the middle of the pandemic, I just don't know that we're going to get the kind of response that we want. And, come January, there will be a new commissioner that is going to be asked to address a major expenditure for Atlanta Highway. And that's something to consider there. So I'd be fine with taking a different look at this schedule, pushing it back, that allows for more user group interaction, that allows for public input to occur after the holidays. I just don't. I don't think that's fair at all. And then also,
I think so too. Yeah, and I've heard that our work session schedule is really heavy coming up, and they're even talking about adding a new work session in November. And I just want to make sure that topics like this are getting the time and attention at the right phase. And again, adding some time to the process by not having a vote in January may fill in the part that Mike and Patrick were articulated. And I think this is good, like a drive-through run. If this were to come forward at the agenda session, I think in December, we would want to, and that's another reason we try to have short agenda sessions in December for the very reason of the holidays. So that might give some more time to have more input before our next interaction with this.
Right. I mean, I could see, Allison, I agree completely. I mean, I could see a work session scheduled for January, February on this. I don't, vote in March on it.
I think that will fit into the cycle and 2 new commissioners more appropriately, and the abundance of public input we want gives the user groups time to do their part with their community engagement.
Right. I agree. Do we need to make a motion to that effect, or can y'all just do that?
Well, I'll entertain a motion in a moment. I guess I just wanted to hear from staff. You've heard from the commissioners, their thoughts.
Yeah. So a couple things. So I definitely hear what y'all are saying, and we appreciate y'all's feedback. And Keith and Derek have scheduled an additional meeting with the Atlanta Highway Corridor User Group for next week to get more input. And I think we can use that meeting as an opportunity to really see how much more input the user group believes they need to put into it. And we can make sure to end that meeting with that question as well to see where they think we're at. But I think this input is good. The question is do we need to adjust the calendar? And I think what y'all are saying is, you definitely think we need to push it back to give more time for feedback and comment. So we hear that. I do think that, y'all asked for the update, and one of the things we want to do is really show the connection between these user groups and the Corridor Policy Committee. So as this committee was kicked off, one of the reasons why it was to address some of the policy issues in the front end before we create the user groups. And so we developed that flow chart. It's not even worth putting up on the screen right now because it's so big. I had to print it up for y'all in that huge paper, if you remember. And it shows the interconnection between this committee, AIM, the user groups, and all the different committees we have working on corridors. And so once we do develop policy on the front end, it will inform the corridor user groups that are created in the future. Until then, we do have this kind of bit of a seesaw. So that's just one thing I wanted to address. But we'll take y'all's feedback and we'll talk with the manager, and we can discuss the calendar. We want to make the most of y'all's time, and we want to make the most of our residents' time. So we definitely hear your feedback and appreciate it. The second piece is I do want to use this as an example. Jeannie Connell is on from.
I don't think.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
So no, I was going to also say I think someone asked this take a motion or a vote. I'm just suggesting that we'll just send it back to you guys. I don't think it's anything that we have to vote on. We just know we want to extend the timeline, if that's okay, and if that's parliamentary procedure. Is that okay?
Well, I want to just make clear, we're coming up on November, so if we see this on the work session, that's going to make my blood pressure go up a little bit after we had this discussion, because that's going to tell me you didn't really hear us, Josh. So that's why I'm wondering if we need a motion so that you hear us loud.
I don't think I want to see it on there.
I will.
So, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that this schedule is adjusted to reflect opportunities for citizen input that's not interfering with the holidays, and also adjust the schedule to take into account new commissioners that are coming on board and greater user group input.
Would you add no voting in January?
And no voting on January for it. Yeah.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. What Commissioner Hamby said. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Maybe?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Patrick's muted.
You're the only one that's eyeing.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
Okay. Aye. Okay. All in favor? Everybody said aye. Those opposed?
And the only thing I'll add, y'all, is this was a calendar set through an agenda item, and so I just need to talk with the manager, and we'll get you a follow up. Not sure this is something in this committee's purview, but I definitely will follow up with y'all as soon as possible. And we definitely hear you.
Right, and I would just suggest that if more needs to be done to change the schedule, you now can say you can have a unanimous vote from this group to whatever we need to do to follow it up. You've got 4 people to support it through the rest of the process.
Understood. And I appreciate the conversation, y'all, and the feedback. I did want to give y'all one example of how these groups work together, and that was Jeannie Connell's on from Central Services. She helped shepherd the median master plan and develop that as part of our previous meetings. She's got a couple medians she's working on with SPLOST and with GDOT, so I just wanted to give her the opportunity to give y'all an update. I think you're on mute, Jeannie.
I don't get to talk to people very often anymore. We're working with Keith Sanders at SPLOST, trying to get the approval through GDOT. We should have the submission sent in next week for the areas off of Highway 78 and Atlanta Highway, that intersection.
Jeannie, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can just barely hear you. So if you can get a little closer to your microphone, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me better now? Okay. We're working on the GDOT submission, should have that sent in next week. And we're also doing a supplemental bid out for the contracting of the installation on that as well. And then we're also putting together the remaining beds for the rest of the project. There's 4 more areas that are included in that.
Can you speak generally on where those are, please?
Those would be out on Highway 441, the Homewood Hills area, Timothy Road, and Highway 78. I'm sorry, 72.
Okay. Committee?
I'm sorry.
I guess, will we want to meet after those GDOT checkpoints to learn more, or will that just come as is it just a checkpoint, or is there going to be some interaction we need to have?
After they look over them, they have to improve, since it is within their right-of-ways. They have the final say.
So will we just get an update maybe through email in the corridor committee to learn how that went? I'd be interested in hearing how that went, to know if we have to I'll be interested in an update from them.
Yeah, for the previous GDOT submissions I've done, the only opposing was over here on Lexington. They wanted us to remove the crepe myrtles. Other than that, every other one's gone through with no problems.
Remove as in remove them from the plans, not remove them from where they already are.
Remove them where they already are.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no.
the only way they would approve that is if we would have removed all those crepe myrtles here on Lexington Road. That's why we didn't proceed with it.
Mhm.
I hate it.
Good dang it. Are they too far along to find a new life somewhere else?
Yeah, because of where they sit within the medians, once we start removing the root systems, we'd be tearing up the roadway as well.
Yeah. Okay. Can we put a sign up when that happens? It's not our fault.
We tried.
Repaint some of those right-of-way signs that you've collected and repaint them. Say it's GDOT, not ACC Gov.
And y'all, just to kind of read the mission of the corridor committee, because for the public watching, beautification is part of the mission of this committee. So the charge of the committee is to develop policies and practices for both collector and arterial roadways that are designed to enhance safety for vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, and other users, reduce vehicle speeds, and create visual enhancements, particularly planted areas. So I just wanted to connect those dots for people who might be watching. This is why the meetings are important. They are part of this committee's charge. And Commissioner Wright, to your point, we can make this a monthly check-in as part of this corridor committee to talk about where we're at with median plantings, if that might be helpful as well.
I think so, especially if something might come out that is happening that are going to make people wonder, and then we can then also disseminate it to the whole group as well, as in taking out crepe myrtles in the media.
Yeah, any feedback that I receive back from GDOT, I will send that out.
Thank you, Jeannie.
All right, y'all. Thanks, Jeannie, and corridor committee. Thanks for your commitment to the medians and developing the median planting plan. As one of the first things y'all did. I wanted to now, if y'all are ready, to move to our last item for the meeting. All right, so the last time we met, Steve Decker was not our director of TPW. We're glad to have him. We're excited about all the ideas he's bringing to the job, and he's going to present one of those ideas. He's going to discuss safety corridors as a vehicle, pardon the pun, for developing a speed management policy program. And within this presentation, Commissioner Hamby, I think he does speak a little bit to the lane narrowing, and we can broaden that conversation then as well. So with that, Steve, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Give me a second here to go ahead and share. I can find where it's at. I've only done this once or twice, and so it's kind of new for me. Here we go. It's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Can you all hear me okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
Little history before I get started about the safety corridors. As you all know, I was a traffic engineer for 11 or 12 years. And my history is about 40 years of being a traffic engineer and working in highway safety with the state of Florida. And in fact, I started in working in Florida. My first encounter with traffic calming was in 1982 and had a lot of education on traffic calming, which I will talk about as we get through this. And the NTMP is classic traffic calming. But traffic calming on other than residential streets becomes a challenge because you have so many different types of traffic and so many different sizes of vehicles. And so when I retired, my wife and I got in our RV and we did some traveling. And being the traffic engineer that I am, seems like you never let go of that card. And everywhere I went, I would see traffic things on how they were handling things. And several states that I ran into had safety quarters, and I wanted to know what they were about. Luckily, some of these states I saw these I had worked in before. So I called the people that I knew working there and got hand on hand, face on face information about them. Then I did research. But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Before I do that, and I will get into the lane narrowing in a second, I'd like to give you a little bit of background. And maybe you know this or maybe you don't know this, but if you bear with me, I'll give you a little bit of background of what's going on and why speeding, in my opinion, is an issue. And it was not just my opinion. It's been the opinion of every police chief I've ever worked with. In the state of Georgia, local governments years back had a lot of speed traps. You come around the curve and go into a city and go from 55 to 30, and they give you a ticket for doing 31. The lawmakers didn't like that, and rightfully so. So they adopted some laws, and some of these you're familiar with. And the first one was the radar permit by roadway. And the way the process is the posted speed must be approved by GDOT. It requires a study, the 85th percentile speed, and they only will give you a permit if the speed is posted within 3 miles an hour of that 85th percentile, unless you've got some really good reasons why. And so far, we've not been able to get that reason why. So that's an issue. And that permit, once it gets all put together, this permit is issued by the Georgia Public Safety Department, and it's good for 3 years. But there's another hook to this. There's nothing wrong with this radar permit. The issue with this radar permit that really makes it more complex is that they also have a law that local law enforcement cannot enforce speeds unless it's over 10 miles an hour. And so citations cannot be written until it's 11 over. And because you write it at 11, it goes to court, the judge will, maybe their speedometer's off, they throw those out. So now basically most officers are writing at 15 over. And what you can see with that compounds real quickly. In 2010, I worked with Chief Lumpkin, and he had worked with all the other chiefs in the state, and they went to legislation to try to remove this. They wanted to remove the whole thing. Let's get rid of the 10 mile an hour. But when they went in there, they had no supporting data to back up what they were trying to say and why they were going to do it. And so the legislatures denied it, and it didn't go any farther. Well, had they done this, there's two things. If they would have taken some crash data, which we in Athens could provided our police chief and still can, and say higher speeds increase crash injuries. And if we can lower the speeds, we can manage the speeds better, the injuries will go down and the crashes will go down. And if they would have taken the approach to go 5 over instead of 10, they may have been successful. You can't eat an elephant in one bite, and sometimes it's better to take a small bite. So that's where we were. Now, we do have speeding on local streets. We have speeding on neighborhood streets, which we're addressing in the neighborhood, and we're working on the local street program. But the collectors and arterials are a real challenge. And the reason that doing typical standard traffic calming on an arterial or collector causes many problems, because typically these roadways are designed to move traffic safely and efficiently. Roadway design speed addresses, according to the engineering manuals, the safety and efficiency. And efficient collectors and arterials typically reduce neighborhood cut through. One of the traffic calming things that you really cannot do on that type of roadway, because of the type of vehicles using these roads, is we have buses and we have tractor trailers. If you narrow those lanes, you increase the crashes. A classic example of this, and if you think about some of our roadways that we have, Hawthorne used to have 4 9-foot lanes, and we used to have so many side-swiping crashes, and it was just terrible. We went to 3 lanes, it's still narrow, and we still have crashes. So narrowing lanes is unsafe, maybe some places, but not on these type of roadways. And then I did some studies in 1983 and 84, because the commission that I worked for said, well, why don't you just narrow these lanes down to 9 to 10 feet and slow the cars down? So we did 6 or 7 locations, I can't remember exactly how many, of different types of roadways. And did a before study, 6 months, a year, 18 months, and 2-year study. The speeds never went down. What did happen in some places, we had sideswipe crashes. So that didn't work for us then. Now, we could test it today, but I'm afraid we'd have come to the same things. But there is a solution that I saw when I was traveling, and it's a safety corridors. And I'd like to explain a little bit about the safety corridors. In my travels, as I said, I saw these in many, many states. And so I called the folks that I knew to find out, what is this all about? You go across the safety corridor, it's got a big sign that tells you, informs you that it's a safety corridor. Speeding and all traffic laws are enforced. And what I discovered by talking to these folks and then getting online and doing some searching with Federal Highway, very positive results. And the first result, if you go to the state and say, well, I want to slow people down, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you tell them I'm reducing crashes, you get a lot of distance with these folks, because they have these safety programs that they have, and that's the intent of that. And so doing the reducing crashes is what they want to see. And how can you do that? Severity of the crashes is really based upon speeding. And that's why speeding is an important factor of this. Of course, I do want to tell you that some of the states did this on interstates and other roadways. The methodology is different, but it's similar in some ways, because we have crashes, we have arterials, and we have collectors. So it would work for us. And talking with staff, I've talked with our traffic engineer, and I've talked with other traffic engineers, friends of mine throughout other states. It is adaptable to local government. And Athens-Clarke County, we already monitor and utilize crash data. We use crash data for everything. In fact, we have an intern right now who is researching all of our crashes and plotting them, and are actually coming out by corridor. And so far, he's up to 2016, and we're going to get him to go farther, as far as we can go, and get this data logged so we can see where our problems are. There are a lot of them are on collectors, a lot of them on arterials, and so we need to look at that. But we have experience with this, by the way. We had a community traffic safety team that we used when we did No Kidding, Pay Attention to School Zone, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then we have a roadway safety audit team that has done some remarkable things, come up with some great projects for safety. And one of these projects is the median islands for pedestrian crossings, which has been great. It added a great deal of safety for that pedestrian. We haven't had a lot of pedestrians hit, but that reduces the number that possibly could be hit. And I think that's a great program. And our experience with our CTST, it basically was traffic engineering, the police department, the PIO, and Wintervault was involved. And our program, No Kidding, Pay Attention to School Zone. Some of you who were before may remember that. It was a campaign PSA that actually was awarded a national award for it, how good it was and how meaningful it was. We created that in-house with in-house staff in our PIO in 2011. Didn't spend a lot of money. We shared it, and we did speed enforcement in these school zones. And we did a before and after study, which we always do. And the very first year, we counted the number of people speeding in these school zones countywide. It was over 30% reduction the first year. Now, yes, enforcement had something to do with that, but the other side of that coin was we did this PSA. We got it to the schools. I personally went to PIO meetings with the schools and presented this, and I gave it to school, and we had pencils. We'd got to go to these meetings at the schools, and I'd pass out pencils, and I'd pass out things that the kids would take home to their parents. We published and shared the PSA everywhere. Very successful. Sadly to say, it was a couple-year program, and we quit doing it. And so the speeding has gone back up. Had we continued, it would have been very positive. The other thing that we've done, and I'm really very proud of our roadway safety audit team, it's multidiscipline. It's not just traffic engineers. It's not just road people. It's people that drive cars, people that walk on the sidewalk are part of this team. And they really, really have come up with some great projects, some really interesting safety projects. In fact, I was asked to do some things by the manager. He said, please don't forget the roadway safety audit team. and we do that. So they've been real successful, and I'm very proud of them to see how serious they take this. And what you don't see is after they do the walk, they go into several meetings and they go around the room, and everybody has an open opinion. Everybody has an input, and they hash out and talk back and forth on all these potential projects and what the benefits could be and what can we do to solve these. And sometimes they have to go to our engineers to come up with engineering solutions to address what they want to do. That's easy to do. We've done that many, many times. So where do we start? And I just said we have this intern who's doing the crashes, so that's where we start. We have to pull the crashes. And what Stephen Bailey and I have been talking about is when he does this, I'd like him to take the crashes and outline the severity of the crashes, i.e. what relates to speed. Because that's what we really want to, in my heart, I know if we can get a better control of the speed, we can bring the severity of the crashes down. When I worked for the state of Florida, in my job description, I was supposed to reduce the number of fatalities in the state of Florida. It was impossible. But the teams that I worked with in the state of Florida, 67 counties, I had 40-some counties that I was working with once a month. I had a meeting of 200 people. And what we did together as a team, we reduced the severity of injuries in the state of Florida by a huge percentage, and they're still doing it. And that's what we need to do with that. We need to collect speed data on these corridors and identify those corridors that have high crash and high speed. And when we do that data, speed data collection, something that we do pick out really quickly is we want to outline what time of the day they're speeding. Because if you want enforcement, you don't want a police officer sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody there. You want him there, or the team there, when the most people are speeding. Because sometimes his presence does more than writing a citation. Then I'd like to reorganize the CTST, our Community Traffic Safety Team. And let's determine which ones we want to recommend to the Mayor and Commission that we could do. And by this, I'm meaning a lot of these corridors are going to be multi-district. One corridor may go through several districts, which is fine. And I think we need to look at those are the highest crashes. The severity of the injuries is what I'm really interested in. And those at the highest speeds. Those are the ones that we want to concentrate on. I'd like to take them to the Mayor and Commission for review and your approval or your ideas on what corridors you want us to work on. And then before we even start anything, I'd like the Road to Safety Audit team to look at those corridors and make sure if there's anything that we need to do, any projects to enhance the safety, reduce the vehicle speeds they come up with. Then we have to go out and sign the safety corridors. And I say, put these signs up and say, you're driving through a safety corridor. And there's a reason we're doing this. We're trying to reduce the crashes. And you tell them in that sign why we're trying to do the safety corridor. Education is critical. We found out in our no kidding, pay attention school zone, that education did more than the giving the speeding tickets. It did more. The more of these pamphlets we put out, the more PSA was played. You could ask Jeff Montgomery. It was extremely successful, and that's the key of what we're going to do. And I'll give you a little side note. I used to teach driver's ed in Florida, kids, and so when my daughter started driving, I was her driving ed teacher, by the way. But one of the things that I didn't have to worry about with her was when she got in the car, before she even put the key in ignition, she put her seatbelt on. And the reason she did that is it was a generational education, a change for the generation. So as traffic engineers, what we need to work on this educational part is training and teaching a new generation. This is how we need to do this. Now, if you look, most of our young folks, when they get in a car, they put their seatbelt on. It's because they were trained to do that. So that education part, people we have today, but it goes even farther to our next generation. Law enforcement's portion of this would be the time of day that we give them for the speeding. They'd enforce all traffic laws. Seatbelts, distracted drivers are a real problem. People not turning their headlights on when it's raining, DUI, etc. But I don't want to put the police department in a position where all they're doing is handing out tickets, because we're not going to get anywhere. All we're going to do is have upset people. I believe they should start with some warnings. unless that person is really driving really fast or doing something severe violation, don't give everybody a ticket. Instead, hand them that brochure of why we're doing this and go through that with them in education, piece by piece, and make sure they have that. And then have them understand why they're being stopped, speeding or breaking another law. I think that, first of all, to give a better view to the commissioners or to the policemen that they're there to help and help us grow. But at the same time, this giving tickets doesn't always work. It's a good start, but it's not the answer. Education is better. And that driver driving away will have a better and more respect for that police officer and our safety quarters, knowing that they was educating me. And maybe next time they won't. A little side note, understand when we talked about the 85 percentile speed, traffic engineering principles basically state 85% of your drivers follow the law, drive to conditions. There's that 15% that we work with. That's why we have, the 15% is why we have so many traffic signs and why we have to do all these laws. 85% typically will conform. And it would be glad to see that happen. We did that with the no getting a penitentiary school zone, and it was helpful too. After we do all this, there, of course, will be an after study. It will be done annually. And I say annually because can't be a one-year thing. It has to be continuous. And if you stop it, you just wasted all the efforts. So the first thing we do is look at the crashes and the speed data, see what we've accomplished. When we look at crashes, we would point out injury severity. And is there a speed reduction? And we prepare a report for the mayor and commission, of course, to show you our success or not success. Hopefully success, and I would think it would be if we do it properly. And then share that with DOT. And share it with DOT for a reason. We're telling them these safety corridors are going to reduce crashes and lower speeds. And to show them this can be done without writing a bunch of citations. And so here's our goal. We've got to have some goals on this. What are we going to get out of this? And the number one goal for me is to reduce the vehicle crashes and severity and lower the speed. Create a safety corridor for all users. It can't just be for vehicles. It has to be for pedestrians, it has to be for cyclists, and of course, we've got to reduce the vehicle speeds. Vehicle speeding is critical key to the severity of the crash. So we have to address that. Number two goal, illustrate to the DOT engineers our positive results. We're reducing the severity of the injuries because we're doing all the safety corridor. But as well, we might have better results if we can drop this posted speed down to 5 over instead of 10. And we'll try to seek support from GDOT to see if they can help us approve that and help us work with the state safety office to allow us on these corridors right now, let us reduce this to 5 over, and we can show you how much better it can be. We've never tried that. This is brand new. And I really think we could get their attention once they see what we can do. Of course, we will come back and show them it did work. We continue the safety program for a future goal. We continue providing the after studies to GDOT every year. We can't, and I'm going to apologize, this is not a 1 year or 2 year or a 3 year thing. Some of the safety corridors that I saw in my travels, some of them were in there when I lived in New Mexico. And I left New Mexico 14 years ago. And they're still there. And they're still working. The signs are working. They're not doing as much enforcement. They don't have to. You drive by the signs, why not get a ticket? So the signs, but you still need to have the program. You need to have the education. You need to work with that generation. But we'll continue to provide this to DOT. And we'll follow up every year, show how much more it's reducing. And we'll continue to do this. And we keep on going. Plan to request for reduced enforcement restrictions. Finally get to them to understand we might want to do this Athens-Clarke County wide, the whole county. I want to share this once we get it started with other agencies around us, Oconee County, other counties, to see if they're interested in that. So eventually we can get to a point where this could be statewide, that this reduction to 5 mile over the speed limit could be a start. That's what I think, that's where we think we need to be. How do we get that done besides the traffic engineers doing this? Traffic engineers don't have the authority to do this. It's the police chiefs and the mayor and commissioners going to the legislators and say, look, here's the data we have. We didn't show you before. Here's the data we have to show you this works. And by dropping it to 5 over, we can do even better everywhere in Georgia. So that would be my long-term goal. That's what we need to do. We need to be consistent. Understand this is going to take us a few years, but we're going to get to the end of this road with a positive. I know the corridors out in Mexico. The people who are handling it used to work for me when I was the director in Doñana County. And I asked them, what does the data look like? Speeds are down, crashes are down. They don't have a bunch of emergency vehicles going out, picking up people hurt in crashes. They still have them because you still have that 15%, but not to the quantity they had. They do work. And I'm open for any questions.
I have, this is Commissioner Davenport. Thank you for that. That was very informative. I'm gonna have to watch the YouTube video again to capture some notes. This was really a good kind of work session type information. I really appreciate it. So we're meeting with our delegates this December, and and I just want to make sure that I got this correctly. Do you have any data currently? Because because if you meet with our delegates, so what I'm trying to get at, do we have enough time to provide some sense of data to our delegates by December? Our December, I think it's second meeting.
For Athens-Clarke County, we do. I'm sorry. We do have data, crash data, current crash data we could share with you. And the number, severity, and the crashes is something that would be real important for them to hear. But we can try to provide you as much as we possibly can. We do have some speed studies. What I also can do is I can send you and put a little report together for y'all that of the other agencies who've done this and how they did it and what their results were. That might be helpful if you would like that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'd gladly do that.
I have a question. Yeah, I've got a
Anybody
few,
else?
Ovita. I'm sorry, I won't take up too much time.
We're asleep.
So Steve, I mean, I like the signage that I Googled while we were talking. I mean, why do we have? So you don't have to wait on getting these signs put up. I just think about Timothy Road. Of course, that is a corridor that's all in my district, and we just changed the speed limit to 35 miles an hour. And a lot of times when these older roads like Timothy were built, they were built wide. They were built for fast speeds. So my point is, we've got some roads and corridors around here that are built for speeding, not for slowing people down. So for one, I think I'd like to see us how we can move the signage that you want to do, move that quicker rather than later. Two, when I was first on the commission many years ago now, it seems, that we looked at King Avenue. And with King Avenue, one of the things we did was David Clark. I don't know if you did it or not, Steve, if you were there in 2009 and 10.
Yes, sir, it was.
That if you might remember, we restriped it or put another stripe in to narrow the lanes along King Avenue. And then King Avenue was one of the first roads to start using the radar speed signs. And both of those worked. They slowed people down. I think, it was 45 to 35. I think it's what it is now. So, I guess I'm wondering, are you not looking at things like that about how you can take a look at a road where we have lowered the speed limit and make the road match the speed limit? Because your data, and it's unfortunate that we have to do it this way, and I guess I understand it, but you have to get a bunch of crashes on the road before you take any action. And it'd be nice if we don't have to prove that we have a lot of crashes, because you see where I'm going with that? So anyway, I'm gonna hush because this meeting's going on longer than we thought it would, but just something to think about. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I don't remember that. I remember the radar speed signs. I did not do the narrowing. I did the radar speed signs. And the radar speed signs, wherever we put them, are helpful. They do a lot.
Yeah. No, I remember we narrowed it too. I'll see if I can find the agenda for that, but that was part of it. So.
Steve, this is Ovita. I thought your presentation was really good. I think that I would be interested in what we as a committee need to do for a first step.
Well, I would like, if you want me to proceed with this, we're working on the crash data right now. If you'd like for us to proceed with this, Stephen and I can work with staff and put together, and if you want to do this to the full commission for a work session, we could put together a work session and have some data that we can show you that might be some places that we want to look at. It may take us a couple months or two. I'm sorry?
Are you for some of the places that you want to look at, a priority, or who, do you have a criteria trying to decide what do you want to look at first, or to just get an idea? Is there a criteria what areas or corridors you want to look at first?
Yes and no, but I will tell you what, and I hope I may not have made this plain. Maybe I need to go back and make sure that I sometimes you have to say something 3 times, even for me to remember. But I think the goal should be to get the state to understand that 10 over the speed limit doesn't work. It creates more problems than it's helping, and that if we can get this to 5 over, then our safety corridors are good, but the speeding is going to be down, and that's what we're trying to do. And speeding is a big issue. People don't even slow down when it's raining. So if we can get that across and get it Athens-Clarke County wide, I'd love to see it statewide. If we can get it Athens-Clarke County wide, we have accomplished what we're after. And then some of the issues that everybody's having, law enforcement will now be in control, because right now their hands are tied. They're not writing citations till 15 miles over the speed limit. And if you're on a road that's 50, we're doing 65 before you get a ticket. And that's just not working. That's just not safe. Those roads are not designed for that speed. And so, and just like Timothy, it's not designed for 60 miles.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So
no, I was going to say, so I'm still wondering, as we're collecting this data, because I do know there's one commissioner that has brought up high numbers of in their district. So and I guess that's what I'm feeling around for. Do you have a how and the other thing is, like you said earlier, some of our districts connect. Is there a process or prioritization that you're going to start collecting this data?
We're collecting the data, the crash data, Athens-Clarke County wide. And we have a lot of counts already on a lot of roadways. But when it comes to those specific ones that we believe we want to bring to you, and I want to bring them to you so that we can.
Okay, and I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the big question is whether we'll have that ready for next month's meeting or not. If we go back to the where do we start slide, I think it's slide 7, Steve, if you don't mind going back to that. I think kind of the next steps, if y'all are on board with this, is, staff tries to get this data and brings it back to y'all and then kind of shows where it's falling in terms of corridors. And then we continue to flesh out this idea and develop the process. And I think once we get to those recommended corridors, it would be coming from
your crash data intern collecting was happening, but I say give enough time to get current crash data, help so that when you have a map, you have pins to what we're talking about, and that can maybe visually help next steps. Chair Thornton, I would be fine if this was something that came back to us in January. I suspect we would have a new commissioner appointed to our committee by then. hopefully it'll be Commissioner Myers, since she's so deep in the Athens in Motion, but I don't know how that'll work. But I think that more of the data being inputted for us to learn at the where, and then we can talk about how the examples would look of signage.
Is that okay? Is that a motion, Commissioner? Right? Is that
yeah,
a motion, Commissioner? Right?
Yeah, let's put that as a motion on this topic.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a bunch of seconds. A motion and second that we will ask or look forward to Steve and his department to take the next steps and collect data for January. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We better hurry. We're losing Mike.
Yeah,
We're losing Mike. Let's hurry.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Well, okay, I have one topic. If we're at the future discussions, can I just add this topic so it'll be ready for January? Because I think it fits in with the corridor of enhanced safety for pedestrians. I would like us to look at what it's going to take, policy or procedure steps, to eliminate a person's mailbox being across the street from their residence. If we could just have that in January, and whatever overview you guys can start teaching us about, but I think we could tackle that from whatever direction we need to. It's going to be a positive thing all across the county.
Yeah, I think so. I've got a bunch of those on Timothy, Commissioner Ron.
And then one example, West Hancock Avenue between Baxter and the H.G. Edwards campus had a new sidewalk put in, and here we were putting the mailboxes back in opposite of where the resident was. So that's the kind of thing that I think we could put in to not, when we have the chance to fix it, let's do it. But anyway, it's a long range goal, but I think it's relevant to this committee. So,
And I'll just add the other thing we heard. Yeah, I was just going to add the other thing I heard during the discussion was to look at King Ave as well. So that was a future consideration.
No, I wasn't saying look at it. I was just saying as an example.
Okay. As an example
of narrowing the lanes.
Okay, got it.
So that's all. That's all I wanted to add, if that was okay, and then we could go to Mike's motion as far as, and I'll second it.
I'll adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Nobody asked for it yet. Nobody asked for it yet, Mike. You wait till you're in charge, and then we'll adjourn. Josh, are you okay with Allison's request to look into for our next meeting or January meeting, Allison?
Whenever we meet next. January's fine for me. Considering we might.
Whenever we meet next.
Yeah, one recommendation from y'all was to not meet every month, that maybe it was every other month. So, if y'all want to meet in January, we can definitely have our next meeting then. It's completely up to y'all.
That is perfect. Well, I know that Patrick had to leave if he hasn't already left. So I will, Josh, is there anything else you want to add to this meeting? Committee members, are you good?
Just good to have everybody back together, and thanks for the great feedback today.
So I can let Mike.
Yeah,
we're good.
Okay.
All right, we'll take that motion, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike?
You mean make it again?
Make it again.
I'll make a motion to adjourn again.
Second, again.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you, team.
everybody. I do like this committee, so
Bye-bye.
thanks. Thanks, everybody.